welcome back. We are here yet again with your Week 8 college football recap. We've got the whole crew here with you today. Ryan and Michael both here with me as always. We had another crazy week, some big upsets, a lot of close games, a lot of teams thrown in the fire this week. And there's just a lot went down. We got a lot to talk about today. It's going to be a really interesting Sam Standing segment. As you guys all know, is the most anticipated college football segment that there is in sports media, of course. Without further ado, let us get straight into this because we had a heated top 10 matchup this week between two Big Ten teams, Big Ten East teams. We had Ohio State hosting Penn State in the shoe. And it was a great game, really, for defense. Not so much if you were looking for points. Ohio State, at the end of the day, they came away victorious. It was 20-6. Both teams' offenses looked a bit slow. Defenses were on full display, but I got to ask you guys, Ohio State kind of looked in full control the full time. Marvin Harrison Jr. played great against one of the top DBs in the country on Penn State. And it's just now that we have seen two displays like this, really, from Ohio State, they have easily the best resume in the country. They have two, at the time, top 10 wins. I got to ask you guys, Michael, I will start with you. Should the Buckeyes be national title favorites where we stand right now?
Honestly, I'm inclined to say yes, but again, I do think they're in that top S tier of teams with a few others. I think Michigan deserves to be in that tier as well as Georgia, probably. Outside of that, I don't know. I think those three teams definitely should be the three runaway favorites. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to say that they're the overall favorite, but I'm pretty high on Ohio State, and I would probably take them in a neutral site game versus both of those teams I just mentioned, Michigan and Georgia.
Yeah, I agree. Look, they get Michigan at home this year, I believe. They went on the road last year, so it's going to be a really interesting matchup. John Harbaugh has kind of had Ryan's Day's number these past years, but this is a totally different iteration of this Ohio State team. It's much more defense focused. There's not too much of a run game. You don't want to put the fate of the game in Kyle McCord's hands, but you still have those good receivers. Health has been a bit of an issue, but this is one of the best defenses in the country, right? Like I can, throw out, top 10 defenses. This has to be maybe number one, and we'll probably talk about defense a lot later as we get into like the top 10 and the FSU game and all that. But this defense is awesome. It has to be up there. They've got good D-line. They've got really good DBs. This is great. Ryan, in your opinion, do you agree that they should be, kind of the odds-on favorite right now to win this title?
Yeah, absolutely. They've had some big wins. I feel like every time we talk about a team being eye test number one, they lose the following week. But at the moment, yes.
I know Georgia, they should be for whatever it's worth, but Brock Bowers goes down. That's easily going to hurt your odds. I don't think you can really justify them being number one at the moment. Michigan has looked great, but they haven't been battle tested. They don't play a ranked team until like the last 2-3 weeks of their season.
2 of the final 3 weeks are their only ranked teams.
Ohio State's resume right now is impeccable. You have 2 at the time top 10 wins, and then a third really quality win against Maryland. I know they're not ranked, but they're sitting just outside, and they have a good offense and whatnot. They put up a test. So, yeah. I think that they should definitely be the odds-on favorite right now. I think they have probably the best defense in the country, if we're being honest. I know, we usually associate like defense and SEC and all that, but I think Ohio State is one of the best defenses in the country, and Penn State does too, for that matter. But we'll stay on that note of the highly anticipated matchups because there was a second one. Speaking of the SEC, Alabama.
Wait, Sam, before we do that, I just wanted to go back to one of your earlier comments about Kyle McCord, maybe not see him down the road. 2 quick stats that I've kind of just strolled upon here that I find pretty interesting are: 1, McCord hasn't thrown an interception since week 1. He's gone 6 straight weeks without throwing a single pick, and that's on, over 100, right around 170 attempts. So he's taking care of the football, 1. And 2, his QBR has been over an 87 for now 6 straight weeks, excluding that one game versus Maryland where, he played fine, in my opinion.
It wasn't great. It was a good second half.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think Kyle McCord is really showing up to be a pretty solid quarterback. Maybe not the quarterbacks we're used to seeing at Ohio State, the super flashy, Justin Fields and Dwayne Haskins of the world, but he's turning out to be a pretty minimum serviceable quarterback for that offense. So that's all you really need.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, when we want to look at I'll give him total credit, right? Like he's not turning the ball over, and they played good defenses. Props to you because you cannot beat yourself. He did get a turnover that got called back for a touchdown against Penn State. They recovered a fumble after it was a strip sack on him. But it got called back. Questionable call. It is what it is. Anyways, yeah, he's done good with the ball management. I will say though, you got to look at his completion percentage because in a lot of these games, yes, he's taking care of it, but he's not always getting the job done efficiency-wise at the same time. But you're right. This isn't the same, quarterback play we're used to, but he is getting the job done. He isn't beating himself. And he's got good receivers and it should be a good running game, but it's not. But you're right. Yeah, he's been taken care of. He's been very manageable and it's been slightly better than I expected, but sometimes I still do worry about how he's going to play against the Michigans and if they make it that far to the playoffs, how he's going to play against the playoff teams. But is there anything else you wanted to add, Ryan or Michael, before we move on to the Alabama-Tennessee game?
I'm ready to talk this game.
Yeah, I know Michael I'm sure he's ecstatic. Alabama, of course, being his national champion pick. Ryan and I, not so enthusiastic about the Crimson Tide. But look, this was an interesting game back and forth. I didn't expect them to fall behind. Well, I did think that Tennessee could ultimately come away with the win. It was definitely going to come down to a lot of stuff. They honestly just looked like they got overwhelmed in the moment. They looked like they got a lead and then just frankly didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to handle it. Milton, I'm a little reserved on my opinion of him. I don't think that he's quite the top tier of quarterback that you need to if you want to really compete in this sport of college football. I don't know if Milton is a caliber of guy that you can compete with. The receiving core is certainly not the same as last year. I was not a fan of the second half play calling. There's a lot of things that went into it. At the end of the day, Alabama stormed back in the second half. The defense looked awesome. They were stopping them over and over. Offense did what it had to do. There were moments that was flashing, but I thought the defense was really the kickstarter behind this run. Michael, you take it from here because this is your team. What were your thoughts from Saturday's game?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I y'all kind of know my thoughts. You know what I'm going to say. That they went 27 unanswered. I think that version of Bama is the Bama that I think can win it all, and that kind of justified and corroborated my previous claims of that. Am I going to sit here and tell you that first half Bama looked amazing? No. I think this team is not very consistent, but what is really intriguing and encouraging is Nick Saban has really spoken really highly of this team and what they get out for the talent that they have. And those are the teams that he enjoys coaching the most, right? It's not even the teams that you have the highest tier talent. It's with the amount of talent you have, maximizing and squeezing out every single inch you can gain on the football field, right? And that's what's happening there. I don't know. I think the second half version of that team is capable of going toe to toe with anyone. And maybe this is partly like Tennessee not looking like a formidable opponent in the first place. Maybe they're a tiny bit overrated. My Gators beat them, and coming into this game, it looked like a great win. And then all of a sudden, Bama scores 27 straight, and it doesn't look like as amazing of a win as before. Yeah. But I don't know. I think this team still has a lot of questions to be answered. But I think the ball's in their court. They can very easily run up the West, make the SEC title game, win that, and make the playoffs. So I don't know about easily. You still got LSU, got to win the SEC title. But it's doable, I think, especially because LSU is at home. It's in Bryant-Denny, so
but I mean, look, their one loss on the season was a home loss. They got really lucky this year to get all the tough games at home. But I know last year had them on the road. But I was kind of talking about the Texas game, getting that at home as well. Again, it was on the road last year, but hey, if you play a rough schedule last year, you're gonna get rewarded this year. It is what it is. But you're right, LSU is gonna be tough. We'll see how they can. LSU's offense is a mile ahead of Tennessee's. They have a much better quarterback. Real receivers. Malik Neighbors is a threat. Mason Taylor, Fort Lauderdale native, is a quality tight end, to say the least. And LSU all around, I think, is just better on the offense. The defense is a different story. But that game's going to be a firefight, and it's like, can Alabama keep up in a firefight? We'll see. Auburn in the Iron Bowl is always tough, but then you're right. It's really those two games, the SEC championship against, we can assume Georgia for now, and they do control their own destiny. I think, one-loss SEC champ should make it. We can debate playoffs semantics later, but, a one-loss SEC runner-up, and, if it was Alabama, it would be two-loss, but I don't think a one-loss SEC runner-up will cut it. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Alabama after this game and going forward?
I agree. It was a tougher game where they did have to come back. I'm still not completely sold on this Alabama team if they're to play Georgia or Ohio State today. Even neutral site, I don't think they win that game. I think LSU has a chance of beating them. And LSU is a two-loss team.
I think that'll be a really close game.
I'm not sold yet.
Yeah, it's going to be a close one. It's going to be interesting. I'm definitely sold on this Alabama defense. I mean, they got guys everywhere. Dallas Turner's a beast. The freshman Caleb Downs has been playing pretty decent when he gets a lot of run. So the defense will compete. It's just, can these receivers kind of step up? And can Milroe keep progressing in the direction he needs to progress? It's certainly been better in recent weeks. Saban's speaking high, like Michael said. I'm certainly interested to see what this Alabama team can do going forward. And look, if they're the one SEC team that slips in and they do somehow manage to knock off Georgia, then props to them, and that'll be a much more interesting playoff race, I think. Michael, is there anything you want to add before we get to the most anticipated segment in all of college football?
I'm honestly just ready for the most anticipated segment in all of college football. That's all.
As are all the viewers are as well, I'm sure. Guys, we are back yet another week, week 8. Next week, Ryan and I were talking about this yesterday on the NFL video, which is out now. Go watch that. Next week, we are all going to be debuting our personal playoff projections as the AP starts with theirs, so we'll have ours.
That is news to me, bro.
Check your text, but I sent you that earlier.
Yeah, dude, I need to get on that. But dang, that's gonna be tough.
But yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
The first 6,
they'll do the
first 6. So that
first
might first 4 in and first 2 out.
Yeah, so we'll include that with next week's Sam standings. But without further ado, there was 3 to 4 last minute changes that were made to this list. After some extra thought was put in. I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but a lot of last minute changes as we get into this week's Sam standings, but most importantly, let's check who fell out. Penn State and Texas are not in anymore. Penn State, it was close. There's, I could have put them in over some other one-loss teams maybe, but it's just 6 points. Drew Aller looked like the first-year starter that he is. It was just an unacceptable offensive performance. I can't trust you to compete with a lot of other teams when that's what you do in your biggest test. You can't be putting up these 40, 50-point performances week in and week out, and then the second you play a really good defense, just fail to get, a touchdown, fail to get double digits. For Texas, it's not really their play. I know they were in a close one with Houston, but the news came out that Quinn Ewers is out for a few weeks with an AC joint sprain. So that was the reason that they're dropped. Injuries definitely played a part in this week's list, as you will see in a second as we get to our top 10, the big reveal. Michigan takes the number 1 spot this week. Ohio State the number 2. That was really interchangeable. I was about to put Ohio State at 1 at the last minute, honestly. But I don't know. Michigan just looks really, really good. Florida State overtakes Georgia simply because of the Brock Bowers injury. I want to stress that now. It is almost all on the Brock Bowers injury. I don't want to spoil too much of upset alert, but not a lot of us on this show are high on Georgia going into this weekend. Oregon comes in at 5. Alabama was one of the last-minute switches I made. They were a little bit lower on the list. I decided to bump them up to 6. They look good, and just the teams under them do look good, but not as good and not against a ranked opponent. I have to give them credit for that. Oregon State at 7. They were on a bye week. Can't punish them too much. They look good when they're playing, and they've got an interesting matchup this weekend that I'm sure they'll take care of business. Utah at 8. I am so upset that Cam Rising is not coming back this year because this team looks so good. This defense, and Oregon State for that matter. I know, like I said earlier, when we think defense, when we think offensive lines, we think if it's not in the SEC, it doesn't count. These two teams have really good offensive lines, and both might very well have top 10 defenses at the very least in that top 20, 15 range. Washington at 9. They looked so bad coming off of that huge win. They get bailed out against a 1-6 now Arizona State team with a defensive touchdown, not even an offensive touchdown. And then Oklahoma at 10. They flip-flopped with Texas last minute, and It was all because of the Quinn Ewers injury. Oklahoma didn't look great against UCF. I mean, I called that last week. I said UCF with Plumlee was going to give them a bit of a run for their money, and they did. So I bring it back to you guys. Michael, I'm coming right to you. What do you think of Sam's standings this week?
I guess I'll start with who you have in number one. I think Michigan is probably the consensus amongst most people, or at least like, I don't know, over 50% of people probably, if I had to guess. But I don't know what they have done to really deserve that. I think Ohio State has two.
It's consistency. Really.
It is consistency, yes, but I mean, Ohio State, whether they've been a little bit inconsistent or not, they have better wins, in my opinion.
No, I can agree.
Yeah, I would probably swap Ohio State and Michigan for that reason. I haven't seen Michigan play an actual team up until this point. I think maybe their most impressive win was a 45-7 win against Nebraska, or I guess maybe this most recent win against Michigan State, really like covering the spread 49-0. Yeah. But I don't know. I'd probably still have Georgia above Florida State. And we'll get to this in a little bit, but I was not really a fan of the play calling or Florida State's performance in the majority of that game versus Duke. And I think that although Georgia is without Brock Bowers, I don't think that that's enough for them to drop an entire spot or two from previous.
I think it's everything, because I think they might, again, don't want to spoil upset alert too much. I don't know how well they make it out of this week with him not there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's a big part of their offense, surely, but I mean, they're so dominant in the trenches that they don't really need like a weapon like that, right? Like they can afford to pound the rock against most teams successfully, right? And defensively, we know what they are too, right? Like they don't have to score a whole ton of points most weeks, which pains me to say, but it is true. I think I'd probably have. It kind of seems like there's starting to be a little bit of a gap between the top four and maybe the rest of the pack, right? Maybe that's where
I might include Oregon in there and then say I agree.
Yeah, but they still have that loss, so those are the four undefeateds right now. If there was a college football playoff rankings, the top four that you have there would be in the top four.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Outside of that, I mean, can't speak highly enough about Utah.
They're awesome, man. I really wish Cam Rising would come back.
Yeah, that whole program is really the definition of a fine old machine. I mean, say what you will about them being in the Pac-12, but goodness, like they continue to impress and silence the doubters. I still like Oregon State pretty high. I don't know if I'd put them that high. I'd probably put a team like Washington above them.
Maybe. They have not had. I know they lost, but it was a close shootout to a really good team in Washington State. Washington, that scared me. I mean, I really thought they might actually lose that to Arizona State until they got that really lucky last-minute pick six at home. And it was a little nervous. I mean, just for this week, we'll see what they do to bounce back. But that was my only reasoning for really punishing them in the rankings.
Yeah, besides that, I think the rest of these rankings I like a lot. It's, very uncharacteristic to see Washington only, score the way, like, as much as they did, right? Like,
Yeah, I agree with Washington falling. That was a pretty rough showing.
Yeah, Ryan, give me your quick thoughts, and then we'll move on. We don't want to spend too long here.
Yeah, nothing too crazy on this. I think it's a pretty solid list. Don't love Michigan at 1, but I understand, due off respect, they have to be number 1.
Yeah,
and I understand Georgia falling due to the injuries to Bowers. But I feel like Ohio State should be number 1, if anything, kind of based off. I know how you base it off.
I kind of agree. I mean, looking back, I honestly could have put them at number 1 and lived. But yeah, it's interchangeable. They have the better resume. Michigan's just kind of been more consistent.
Oregon State, a little high, but I know that's your stock.
I think invested in Oregon State. Going to surprise some people when they play these top-ranked teams. I really think they're going to come out and surprise some people.
You've been talking about them for weeks. I know that's your hope. But other than that, nothing great.
Yeah, and we'll kind of cut it there for Sam's standings this week, because we have my most emotional segment coming up here, the last game of this week that we will discuss before we get into some news and some upset alerts. Michael just kind of mentioned it a little bit. Florida State took on yet another test in the Duke Blue Devils. And look, I know you guys aren't too in touch with Duke. I know you might not watch them week in and week out. That was a top 5 defense in the country. Statistically, go look it up. That's not just me saying that to Booster. FSU. That was a real legit defense that had played legit teams, and that run defense is impeccable. The run game is impeccable for Duke. Riley Leonard is an NFL QB. Whether he goes this year or next year, he'll probably be in the top 2 to 3 rounds. Quarterback-wise, the kid has talent. And look, I mean, FSU has been a second-half team all year long. We saw it against Clemson. We saw it against LSU in week 1. And we saw it again here. And we can throw out as many asterisks as we want. At the end of the day, I know Riley Leonard went down. He does not play on the defensive side of the ball. And if you look at his passing numbers, he was not doing much in the passing game either. So if we want to talk about the capability of handing it off, Ryan, you say this with Brock Purdy every week. Anybody can sit back there and hand the ball to a running back and let them go. So, they kind of held Riley Leonard in the passing game. It went back and forth. At halftime, down 3, I wasn't too worried about them really losing the game, but I was a little concerned with what I was seeing because Duke's defense was legit, but we came out, set the tone. Michael, you had said you were waiting for a Jaheim Bell moment, and boy, did he deliver you a Jaheim Bell moment. He was amazing in the second half when Johnny Williams went out of the game. And FSU came away 38-20. They put it on in the second half the same way they did to LSU. And, the question I have for you guys, even if I already know the answer, is did FSU kind of prove themselves to you in this highly anticipated ranked matchup? Michael, let me know.
I don't think my perception of FSU changed a ton. Maybe incrementally. I think the first half FSU team we saw is the FSU team I know we are capable of seeing on any given week. And on the contrary, the second half FSU team we saw is also something we're capable of seeing every week, which just kind of speaks to the level of volatility and consistency or inconsistency kind of inherent to this team. And it kind of seems like that's kind of a trend for multiple teams this year, right? One week they play the best team in the country. Yeah, one week they'll play the best team in the country, and the next, they'll be in a slugfest against a team like BC, right? Boston College. So
yeah,
it really just depends. Why do I think the game turned out the way it did? I do think Riley Leonard going down had a decent amount to do with that.
I think it played a part. I don't want to give that the sole credit for how this team played.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying he played a pretty big part in the way that game kind of turned. When you talk about the intangible things you can't quantify, like momentum and having the quarterback be a manager.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
But secondarily, I think you were speaking about the run game. The run game kind of got stopped in the second half. I think part of that has to do with Riley Leonard's ability to open up the run game through the pass game. Right. When you have
he was struggling though with that pass game, he wasn't able to open it up really. I mean, they held him down. It was, if you look at Duke's offense as a whole, it wasn't going anywhere. They got the one huge run play, and then after that, they were kind of getting stopped every time except for the turnover.
I guess my point and my argument is more so that with Riley, if you're a defense, if you're FSU as a defense, you have to expect pass more than you do if your backup quarterback is
you have
to respect the pass a bit more with Riley Leonard and then a backup, and I think that allows them to take a couple steps, load the box a little bit more on more frequent plays. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like that's the only reason FSU, won this game in the second half. Like, I think they shut out Duke in the second half.
Yeah.
Scored
this
how many
defense
was that?
Is proving themselves. It's FSU defense. I know it's 20 points at the end of the day, but 7 of those were off of a pick 6 from Jordan Travis. It wasn't the best ball. I was really upset with that. But they got the one huge rush play and then 2 field goals. So it's like I really liked what I saw out of FSU's defense this weekend. They haven't had any game this year other than maybe Boston College, where I was like, okay, I'm worried about the defense. This defense looks legit. Playing 2 really good offenses now in LSU. Not really, one really good offense and then one very capable offense in Duke. The defense is looking good for FSU.
Yeah, I don't know. If I'm an FSU fan, I'm happy with the way y'all pulled away the second half, but I'd be lying if I said I'm 100% confident if we go down.
Right.
If we're losing in a losing situation going into the second half against a really solid team who has discipline and a lot of talent, I'm not sure that that's a situation FSU fans would want to find themselves in. But I mean, I don't know. FSU has a lot of talent as well, and they're capable of coming back against a lot of teams. So
I saw them down against LSU, and we know that was a long time ago. It was only a field goal. Yeah, you're right. I preferably don't want to see them go down at halftime again. I'd like to be neck and neck. It's all I can ever ask for. Ryan, real quickly, give me your thoughts on this game, and then we will move to an upset alert, and then touch on the Michigan news if we have time. But I know Michael wants to talk about Georgia and Florida this weekend, so let's get there
Michael
quickly.
basically touched on everything. Not really sold on FSU. I think that injury was a big momentum factor in them winning. I still don't see them making the playoff.
All right, yeah, I agree. And let's get to upset alert. I will pull up this week's games. Real quickly before I start, last week I put Oklahoma and Ole Miss on upset alert. Both of them were really close to coming to fruition, but neither of them did. Ryan, you put Bama and Ohio State. Same thing, but maybe not with Ohio State. And Bama was somewhat close in that first half.
Yeah.
It did not happen. Michael's the only one of us who gets a win this week. He picked FSU and USC. FSU did not happen, but USC did lose. So Michael wins in this week's upset alert, and the overall rankings will be updated and posted soon. For week 8 upset alert, Michael, you take it away because I know the game you're going right for, and I want to hear your take on this.
Yep. So I'm obviously I'm gonna pick my Gators to upset the Georgia Bulldogs. That 14.5 point line is a pretty big line to be picking an upset for. If I was a betting man, am I putting money on this game? Probably not. In all honesty, but I do see a path to a victory. I think the key really comes down to if we can exploit Bowers being out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, obviously he plays a huge role in that offense, but if they're just able to throw it out wide and get big chunk plays, or if they're able to just gash us up the middle, then what does that do for us, right? We have to take advantage of the situation at hand, and I think that obviously it's not never a good thing when a player gets injured or goes down, but it's kind of something that happened, and it's a kind of a gift that fell upon the Florida team, I guess, because that's someone you worry about when you're scheming or strategizing for any given week. So I pick us. I like our defense in this game to cause some havoc against Carson Beck. I think that Georgia O-line, although they're talented, I think they lack experience in some spots, and I like the depth we have at defensive line. I think we got a lot of young guys that can create some noise in this game. I think the really, really big key is the turnover margin. I think if we can get just a couple of big plays, an interception here or a fumble there, I think that can have all the say in this game. I think a lot of people forget going into halftime, like 2 minutes before the half, this was practically a tie game last year. And then in under 3 minutes, Georgia puts up 21 points and the game's over before the half is even over, right? So I think being able to limit turnovers, and by the way, Anthony Richardson turning the ball over once or twice is a big reason why they scored that many points in that short of time span. And Mertz has been taking care of the ball. I think he's been doing a great job about doing that. I'm really interested to see what Napier is able to concoct up, because it's going to take everything working and no failures to any degree. Everything has to be fine oiled, squared away, no mistakes. Pretty much have to have a flawless game to beat these guys, which it also pains me to say, but I think we're capable of having a game like that. Is it likely? Probably not, but I'll be there. I'll be cheering them on. And again, I've been present for the only 2 road wins for Billy Napier in his tenure. So maybe this is a neutral site game, but whatever, it still counts.
I do want to mention real quick, Florida, while they are 5-2, is 3-1 in the SEC. And of course, that's what they go off of for SEC championship. So who knows if they magically pull off the upset, SEC championship appearance possible. I just want to throw that out there. But Michael, who's your second upset alert pick to go along with Georgia this week?
I think my second upset alert could, in fact, be, and this is an interesting one as well. I might continue riding with the Utah Utes.
I was gonna take that one. That's a good pick.
Yeah, they play at home, I believe, against Bo Nix and company, Dan Lanning coming into Utah, but I don't know. It's just something about this team that they won me my upset pick last week. They find ways to win, and even more impressive when you remember that the starter, what's his name? Cam Rising's been out. So
they went with the backup instead of the third string last week just because of his arm talent, and he proved that he belongs there. So I'm interested to see if he can. It's at home, and this defense, like I said before, is really good. The run game is good. I agree, that's a good pick.
Yeah, you can never count out a Kyle Whittingham led team in the Pac-12. I mean, people forget they won the last 2 Pac-12 titles.
Yeah, right? They've been the reigning, guys in there.
Ryan, it's pretty insane.
Real quick, Ryan, give me your 2 upset alert picks for this week. I'll scroll.
Yeah, so I'll start with the late night first. I got Arizona over Oregon State.
Yep, Arizona's been a sneaky team. I won't be. That'll be an interesting game. They've competed a lot.
I think that's a good one. And then I'll also stay on the late night. I think Colorado beats UCLA.
Okay, we don't know who UCLA's QB is going to be.
So I'm staying Pac-12 for mine.
Yeah, if it's Dante Moore, I feel confident, but I mean he's struggled a little bit in Pac-12 play. They kind of they have a lot of good QBs on the roster, but UCLA's defense, that's what worries me because UCLA's defense is another one that's like top 20, 25 in the country, and Colorado has not fared well against any defense that is not a high school defense. So, I mean, that's a good pick. I like that. Real quickly, my 2, I'm gonna put Texas on upset alert. BYU is 5-2, 2-2 in Big 12 play. Texas, I know they're at home, but they're rolling with it. Looks like Malik Murphy. He's the one that backed up Quinn in last game, and he got the reps. And I haven't heard anything different. So I'm guessing he'll be the starter. I'm going to put Texas on upset alert because of that. And 17.5, even with a backup in, just feels like a big spread. And then for my second one, those were a lot of the good ones. I will say, man, I really wanted that Colorado. I was either going to take the UCLA one. You know what? If Riley Leonard plays, I'll use that as my safety. If Riley Leonard plays, I think they'll beat Louisville. We put here Louisville is favored by 4 at home. If Riley Leonard plays, I think Duke beats Louisville. But with that being said, is there anything else you guys want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I like my 2 picks.
I like mine too. I think we're in for a great week. Quickest episode that we've had on this show by far. I know we didn't quite touch on the Michigan news, Michael. If you just want to give a quick word on that. Because I have not read too much on it.
Yeah, I mean, as y'all may know, Michigan kind of got caught, cheating, stealing signs. Sounds like some baseball type of shit, but it was they were sending guys to other games. This one guy got caught going to like 32 something games, got confirmed tickets. And the interesting thing is, like, people are crazy to think that Michigan's the only team doing this.
Yeah, I agree.
They're just the only ones that got caught. They're the only ones that got caught, and that's something to clown them over. But the widespread kind of terrible ethics in college football, generally speaking. You'd be so surprised if we knew half of the stuff that happened under the table with NIL and all this stuff.
Agreed.
Pretty interesting stuff. I don't know how seriously they're going to get punished. One of my friends joking, I don't know if he was serious or joking earlier today. He said they might be put on like a playoff ban, but I don't think that'll ever happen. You got to really you got to have your whole team each murder someone for that to happen.
Or be a school that the NCAA hates. If Miami did this, they would strip the football program.
Yeah, probably.
And SMU, there's certain schools where they do anything, it's you're done.
Yeah, so, I don't know, just something interesting to follow. But yeah, I think this episode's been great. I think although it was shorter, I don't think it was short of quality at all.
Not at all.
Some really exciting games to watch, and I'll have some clips from the Florida-Georgia game. Hopefully, not too many dogs are barking in my face like last year and the year before, because boy, that gets annoying. And it was
a great concert.
Yeah, I don't know, these past couple of Georgia games I've been to in Jacksonville, I went to the last 2. My friends will go with me, and they want to leave by the end of the third quarter. Which A, I don't want that to happen, but B, I'm the type of fan to stick it out. We can be down 100 points, and I'll be there to the last snap.
Yeah, ride it through.
So I get all of the hate from the Georgia fans because I'm the only one there left. So it's
the only one to pick on,
Yeah, and also I don't know if y'all have ever seen pictures of the stadium or whatever, but it's really cool. They do a half split, so one whole half of the stadium is blue, one whole half is red. It's pretty sick. So I don't know. We'll see. My freshman year, we were right on the border, and like I had like 3 different beer bottles thrown at me. Like some dudes in front of us, like obviously got arrested for fighting and stuff. So it was pretty wild. But
hey, but go on, win that night game stock.
Oh, yeah, exactly. A win here would almost secure
the night game. It's a lock. Yeah. Honestly, if we cover, it's a lock.
I think if you don't get embarrassed, it's a good sign.
Yeah, and I think with Bowers being out, we're gonna have to do a lot to ourselves. We're gonna have to hurt ourselves to get embarrassed in this game.
Yeah, it would be self-inflicted with embarrassing.
Just never off the table with this team, unfortunately. So,
well, thank you guys as always for taking the time out of your day to get on. You're right, shorter episode, not shorter content by any stretch. It's a great week, and next week after some of these games, especially if Florida pulls this off, we will be headlining with that. We should have a great week in store next week too, so I will be excited to see you guys then. Michael, excited to see whatever content you've got coming from this game. Like, subscribe, comment what you want to see more of, notifications on, and until next time, thank you, everybody.
Don't forget, Dabo Sweeney's a fraud.
Hell yeah.
Go Gators, baby. Go Gators. Upset the Dogs.